Luxury, today's song is an iconic 90s hit.
It's classic rock instrumentation, punk energy, and rap sung, maybe shouted vocals combined to make a song that was at once an outlier for the band, while at the same time bringing together many of its influences, becoming its biggest single.
With a wildly creative music video that further accentuates the track's energy and proves the visionary output of this once-in-a-generation group.
30 years later, we are here to talk about what makes this song the definitive fusion of doing hip-hop and rock the, quote, right way.
Listen, all of y'all, it's one song, and that song is Sabotage by the Beastie Boys. I'm actor, writer, director, and sometimes DJ Diallo Riddle.
And I'm producer, DJ, songwriter, and musicologist Luxury, a.k.a. the guy who whispers, interpolation.
And this is One Song,
the show where we break down the stems and stories behind iconic songs across genres and tell you why they deserve one more listen.
You will hear these songs like you've never heard them before. And if you want to watch One Song, please go to our YouTube channel and watch this full episode. And while you're there, please like and subscribe.
All right, so today to help us break down Sabotage, we brought in a very special guest.
That's right. He's a 3-times Emmy-nominated actor, 4 times going to be the charm buddy, comedian, writer, and producer.
And the creator of the widely celebrated comedy series Kroll Show and Big Mouth.
That's right. With numerous scene-stealing appearances across TV and film and series such as The League, Parks and Rec, Portlandia, The Sing franchise. Please welcome the multifaceted comedic force of Nick Kroll.
Hey, thanks for having me,
Thanks for being on our show, Nick Kroll.
This is so big.
4th time will not be a charm, but I really appreciate you saying that. I really appreciate it.
As somebody who has on his bio Emmy-nominated,
Yeah.
there's no shame in this game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Or it's filled with constant shame.
All kinds of agonizing shame.
Yes.
I'm going for the daytime Emmy now.
Honestly,
less competition?
Less competition and better food at the ceremony.
Oh, you've been to all the ceremonies.
I've never been to the, but it's on my vision board of what it would be like to be at the daytime Emmys.
Ceremonies hosted.
Yeah, like a midday glass of warm white wine.
Nick, thank you for coming on the show. We've known each other for a minute. I've seen you maybe 3 times over the past 35 years.
Yes.
But I did meet you about 30-ish years ago.
That's crazy.
Just for the listeners out there, I went to college with Nick's older brother.
Mm-hmm.
There was a photograph somewhere in my library of a young Nick Kroll, and that's it. And then 30 years later, I saw you at Home State.
I also do know you as the guy who whispers,
interpolation. Thank you very much for knowing this.
To say that, you know?
I appreciate this.
Trust me, I know.
It's like saying dynamite to Jimmy Walker. You don't just get that for free.
From a man with 80 catchphrases to a guy with 1 catchphrase, I appreciate the nod.
Yeah, and you got to pay me for each one.
So, Nick, before we get this going, what did the Beastie Boys mean to you? I imagine they mean something to you.
Yeah, well, as a Jewish kid growing up in the New York tri-state area in the 80s and 90s, there weren't a lot of aspirational music role models. Although, yeah. So I think that, ironically, the Beastie Boys, like, obviously in the 80s, Fight for Your Right to Party, all those songs were, like, big, especially, like, I was a little boy, and that song still is, like, it's a little boy's song, right? You know what I mean?
By and for little boys, yeah.
Also, like, sort of misogynist anthem,
yes.
but and obviously
But they were teenagers,
they were teenagers,
exactly.
They
were literally teenagers.
And you feel it, and it's like, and it's but so anyway, that moment for them was so fun when I was like a kid. And then as I got into like middle school and high school, they obviously kept making all this amazing music. And ironically, the reason we know each other is because you went to college with my brother. My brother, a huge influence for me across all culture and specifically music, because I grew up not really loving and listening to music as a little kid. I was listening to WFAN sports radio. I was like listening to sports radio when I was a kid. And then my brother started sending me CDs and albums early on. And
like he's in college and he's sending them to you back home?
And he's buying me like James Brown.
Okay.
He's buying me Sly and the Family Stone. He is buying me Paul's Boutique.
Yeah. Yes.
And so Paul's Boutique, that's right as he's introducing me to like that music and then also like, Miles and Mingus and all the jazz stuff. And so I started to like fall in love with that version of music as my friends as well. And then the Beastie Boys, this like voice of what I remember being like a kid and like this like rap rock thing, especially like, a hyperactive like Jewish kid.
Right.
And then
Ad Rock in particular with that high-pitched voice. Yeah.
And then, but then all of a sudden it merges with like this really beautiful musicianship that is so deeply grounded in all this music that my brother introduced me to. And I fell in love with it.
I love that story because there's the older brother phenomenon. I don't have that. I'm an only child. And I love the idea of like getting something that it has another layer of meaning because it came from your brother. It's like the music, it was enough on itself. But the fact that your older brother, you probably looked up to some degree, liked it, also probably meant something to you.
Absolutely. But then by the time Sabotage hits, I'm kind of now beginning to explore and live in my own musical space. And that music video comes out.
Yes.
And then that's what's so like, that's what becomes this whole other level to this.
What's interesting is that the Beastie Boys have such an interesting backstory because they do start as a punk group. Not everybody knows that. Most people know them for the rap component, and in this case, for this sort of hard rock thing. But in the middle, they're going to Bad Brain shows and Misfits is how they all met. They were punk rock kids in the Lower East Side in the early 80s. We've talked about it many times on the show, how this is a moment, early 80s, New York City, Manhattan. Yeah. This is a time when there's this cross-pollination of music genres. So there's hip-hop, nascent hip-hop is happening.
There's a lot of like
rock,
very young genres in there.
Very
you've got
young
punk,
genres.
You've got disco, you've got rap.
And they're all cross-pollinated. Yeah. They're all listening to each
all
other.
Sort of like on the downtown side
That's right.
of Manhattan.
That's right.
All in places like...
I would say the Upper East Side had a... Robert Chambers at Dorian's was...
My God. Robert Chambers. Gen Z, look it up. Robert Chambers. That's a fun wiki dive. We talk about the downtown scene. My first job in Hollywood was an OG media executive named Brett King. And Brett was on that scene. He was friends with Jean-Michel Basquiat and Ram LZ. And he knew Nick Cooper, who was the manager for the Beastie Boys at the time that they're playing this show. And what's crazy to me is that Nick Cooper was 16, the Beastie Boys were 15. Like
he was managing.
Like as 15-year-olds, they're like, we should probably get somebody older than us to manage us. Let's get that 16-year-old who seems to know what he's doing. Let's watch a clip of the Beastie Boys making their TV debut as a hardcore band on the Scott and Gary Show.
Awesome.
And that is the Beastie Boys we know and love, playing instruments.
But, you know, they're children. I mean, like, for those of you watching on YouTube, we just saw children. If I saw those guys at Taco Bell at 12:30, I'd be like, get to class. Like, that's insane.
But you mentioned, like, the New York factor. Is there something kind of relatable that you recognize watching this footage or what you know about the scene at the time?
Well, I think, like, again, a kid growing up in Westchester, like, that... It really wasn't like this whole thing of like cool New York punk Soho. Like I was not being exposed to that at all. My brother probably was and was going in like, it wasn't like I wasn't aware of it until I got to high school. But it's really like my way into the Beastie Boys really was much more through their like funk roots and stuff and hip hop roots than it was on the punk side of it. Like,
so it's the James Brown you were also listening to that kind of connected the dots for you?
Yeah, that really became and so specifically that Paul's Boutique album.
I was going to say Paul's Boutique
is so rich in that.
Can we talk about Paul's Boutique because it is one of my favorite, and we will just for the One Song Nation we will definitely be doing another Beastie Boys episode, and it will definitely be Paul's Boutique centric because it's in my top 3 records of all time.
It's it's crazy. I think they make that record in LA.
Yes.
They come out here, right?
Yes.
So like, so my way in, so then Sabotage, then it does highlight their sort of that punk rock vibe to it, that energy that was not something that I had naturally come to as a young like fan of music. But you guys played the intro and we're all sitting in here and you can just feel everybody starting to get so fucking pumped.
Right.
So it hit me in this other way that was sort of new to me at that time.
Right.
But going back to the beginning of the Beastie Boys story, you know, to hear people who were there, and I'm going to go back to my friend Brett King for a second. He says that, you know, Yauk and Horowitz, they were part of a crew of 15 and 16-year-olds who were really just listening to this hardcore music and trying to make hardcore music. And then he says it was one summer around 83 when they all stopped listening. They'd all been into like reggae and hardcore. And then all of a sudden out of Horowitz's boombox, they start blasting rap and reggae. And it was like one summer where they decided, you know what, we're going to become a rap group. And that brings us to Cookie Puss, which is a song that has a huge, huge effect on not just this group, but also the trajectory of hip hop throughout the 80s. Do you know the origin of Cookie Puss?
I mean, I know Cookie Puss as again, tri-state area, Carvel.
Yes.
I'm Tom Carvel. So I remember Cookie Puss very specifically. Cookie Puss. It was like a real thing it was like a very funny cake.
It's a
the
cake.
Was it a
funniest
character?
cake.
Was it like a character?
It was sort of a character, but didn't move. It's just like, it's one of the funniest cakes of all time.
I mean, in the pantheon of funny cakes, it's probably number one.
It's the top cake,
3?
right?
We actually have
Tom Cruise sends cakes to everybody every year for Christmas, and it's like a coconut cake.
Yeah.
Not as funny, a famous cake. I would always take a Cookie Puss Carvel cake over a Tom Cruise coconut cake.
Wow. That's
how important this cake is.
Amazing.
Well, we have a clip of the Carvel ad that gave us the title of this song. Let's play it.
I'm a Carvel celestial person from out of state. My real name is Cookie Puss, but my friends call me CP. I'm a Carvel ice cream cake, and I make fresh daily at participating Carvel ice cream stores.
It's always confusing when the character is the food. Like you're going to eat the thing that it's advertising.
Oh, yeah, El Pollo Loco. Why is he so into chicken?
It's an absolutely insane chicken.
Yeah.
But what's
Cannibalism
weird is
is
there's
driving
Cookie
him
Puss, there's Cookie Puss, and then you guys didn't have Fudgy the Whale.
The whale is back. That's a whale of a cake for a whale of a dad at your participating Carvel ice cream store. Yep. And this year, your Carvel dealer makes them loaded with fudge.
They had,
No, he
he
did
had
not.
another one that was Fudgy the Whale.
Fudgy the Whale, I think, made it to Atlanta. I remember Fudgy
did.
the Whale. I remember that cake.
Yes.
We did not have Cookie Puss.
By the way, if now looking back, might have been the same physical shape, just turned
45 degrees.
horizontally.
Rebranded?
As always, Tom Carvel pulling the wool over our eyes. The great magician of the ice cream cake industry, an innovator. By the way, early delivering a cake. I don't know if I'd call a toll-free number to have a cake sent to me through the mail by Tom Carvel.
But that was high
in
tech at the
80s.
time, to be fair.
Yeah, like what were they packing it in, like cold lead? Like what were they sending these cakes in? Anyway.
They just put a bunch of beers around.
Yeah, and they're like, this will be fine.
So that's the inspiration for Cookie Puss. Now let's hear the song that took this hardcore group into the world of hip hop. And fun fact, even though I have downloaded this song, and I'm usually well prepared for episodes of the show, I can say with some great level of truth that I don't know what Cookie Puss sounds like. This is actually pretty much maybe only the second time I've heard it in my entire life. So I'm going to try to react to it in real time. I'm listening to Cookie Puss
very exciting.
effectively for the first time.
By the way, I don't know it. I don't know Cookie Puss.
True emotions.
We've got two
on both sides of
Cookie
me.
Puss versions.
Yeah.
It'll be an emotion sandwich for me. Let's see.
Okay.
Here comes our real-time reactions. Play Cookie Puss.
Yo, B.
May I help you?
Yes, what's your name?
Hello?
Hello, man, you got Cookie Puss's number?
Here's my supervisor. He'll help you.
Yo, man, where's the supervisor at? I got the number anyway, baby.
Wow. So it's fascinating because it really, what it feels like to me is like, it feels like what I was like with my friends growing up fucking around.
Right.
You know
Yes,
what I mean?
yes.
And they just happen to record it and produce it.
Yes.
Like
I
the
agree.
feeling of prank calling, which I used to do with like my friend, is my friend Andrew Goldberg, who I make Big Mouth with. Like that's what, that's how you connect as friends and
Right.
sense of humor is like, but they were like recording it.
No.
And by 1983 standards, that was good enough that they played this at clubs. We're going to talk about this a lot on the episode. I'm not a fan of comedy music, but I love it when music is funny. And there's this little lane that very few artists have been able to maintain. I think the Beastie Boys are a prime example, where the music it's got wit. There are funny lines every now and then. There are funny choices, but they're not being a comedy act.
Yeah.
And right out of the gate here, well, this may be a little bit on the left of that, but it was taken seriously as a hip hop track, at least in the downtown community, enough that it was played at these hip hop clubs.
Yeah.
And it was definitely a novelty track, but it sets the stage for their career where they're always kind of injecting a little bit of humor.
Totally.
But never so much that you think of them as like a comedy band.
Totally.
Well, I mean, they're kind of like jesters. Is actually the word I'm looking for.
Rascals.
They are the little rascals. I think that like what he's saying is definitely true. On this show, we talk a lot about how the marriage of humor and music is so hard to pull off.
So delicate.
And yet this is like uniquely like a song you can both take seriously as music, but also seriously as comedy.
On the topic, I love this quote that Ad Rock has about incorporating their comedy into the music. So Ad Rock says, quote, "When it's a joke, but with the music, I think, are always pretty serious. With a lot of the lyrics are saying things to make each other laugh or to be funny, but then the 808 drum beat is dead serious to us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what allowed them to be funny at times in the music, was that in the songs, because the music is there.
Right. And I guess we sort of find that to this day with parody, with like the Lonely Island. Like if you break down why that stuff is so good, it's obviously funny.
Yeah.
But they are dead serious with their music production.
Absolutely. And none of those groups, none of the Lonely Island specifically, and a lot of those, that music probably doesn't happen without the Beastie Boys sort of laying the
For
groundwork.
sure.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
can't even imagine Lonely Island. I mean, like, Lazy Sunday and some of that stuff just owes so much to
Right.
the Beastie Boys. Well, Cookie Puss comes out on Rat Cage Records, which was the name of a record store that also ran a small label. And soon after its release, DJs started playing Cookie Puss in clubs. The band starts playing Studio 54, and they come in front of Rick Rubin, who signs them to his new label, Jeff Jam, and the rest is hip-hop history. The Beastie Boys become a full-fledged hip-hop phenomenon.
And again, these are 3 white Jewish kids from New York who are just being true to themselves.
Yeah.
They're personifying what's happening in this cultural moment in downtown
Through
New
their
York.
lens.
All the different styles of music
Totally.
they're bringing together, and they're adding their own sense of wit and style to it.
No, they're being authentic to who they are. And I think that's why they were so successful, like, right off the bat. And we will take, a second to take a step back and rip the Band-Aid off and just say that, like, a lot of their novelty was that they were 3 white guys rapping. I'm not sure in my all-black elementary school that we quite understood the difference between just, I guess, regular white and Jewish at that moment. But we did know, like, oh, these are 3 white guys rapping. And so they did benefit from the fact that, like, that was kind of like a weird thing at the time.
Right.
Elvis benefits from it. Like, the first white pioneer into a black music always sort of benefits from that. But one thing I'll give the Beasties is that they did not change. For whatever reason on Instagram recently, that there's a clip of Vanilla Ice dancing in his movie, and it looks so exploitative.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it looks like a guy who's like, oh, I'm going to be rich like Elvis because this is what I'm doing. And I feel like, opposed to Mr. Van Winkle, the Beastie Boys, Third Base, like, there were other white rap
This
groups
might
that
be its
felt
own different podcast,
less
but like
exploitive.
maybe we can speak to this briefly as the representative Jews of the room. There is
Finally, we have a chance.
I know, I've just been
finally
talking
we have
so
the
much.
microphone. Jesus Christ, don't give us a chance to speak and be heard. Nick, do you have thoughts about this whole like Jews versus other white people
Of
factor
course.
in hip hop?
And I know this is one song, but really, let's get into One Love. As I've said already, like, there is something about seeing someone like you and growing up Jewish, you feel a little different than other like white kids. You just feel, I won't say othered in the same way, but there's just something different, especially in the 70s and 80s as they were growing up and before, where just you feel slightly different. And so venturing into an art form now, then also like then taking
No, it
like
was different
black
then,
influences, but
yeah.
you just feel like you're like, I identify a little with this. I don't feel like everybody else.
The Beastie Boys are, for you guys, what Obama was for me. It was like, oh my God, we can do that?
We can do this? Totally. So I definitely think it had, and I think it speaks to the humor in the music, and then also Jews have always want to be black. I mean, like, that's the end of the bottom line. It's like,
let's form
let's
one
just cut
tribe.
through the bullshit here and get to it.
It's not one song, it's one tribe.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one tribe.
One-
No, that makes so much sense. And I always say that, like, even if they benefited from a certain amount of, like, oh, look at these white guys doing it, it always felt more real than even some of the other, because not all white rappers are made the same. You know what I mean? Like, Eminem came through the Dr. Dre door and it was like, oh, that dude can rap his ass off.
Yeah.
Like, as opposed to, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but like Iggy Azalea has some issues,
Sure.
like,
Or let's go back to fucking Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
Who's like, Vanilla Ice is the one who's performing at Trump's inauguration. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's not a surprise.
Same guy that he was back then.
Yeah, the Beasties are like hardcore Buddhists.
But a big part,
You know what I mean? It all adds up.
But maybe to add to this too, let's not forget part of their story is this Lower East Side phenomenon. They're not just going to Bad Brains shows; they are hanging out with the Bad Brains.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the stories of their name, the origin of their name, according to the Bad Brains, one of my favorite bands, we talk about them every 12th episode. Another Bad Brains reference. But Daryl Jennifer, bass player for Bad Brains, has a story where he says, "Listen, he thinks the origin of the name Beastie Boys comes from them all hanging out on the stoop in the East Village." Near Rat Cage Records, And one thing that they would be doing there would be, you know, selling weed, smoking weed with the Beastie Boys. Like this was their crew. And he says that if cops would come, they would all shout out Beastie. That was their code word. So his theory is that the origin of Beastie Boys comes from the Bad Brains giving it to them as a name. So they're legitimately part of this circle of, I mean, and Bad Brains, you want to talk about another influence, another band that's merging hardcore and reggae. So they're obviously influenced by the idea of multiple genres can exist in a single band. So maybe that's part of, you know, where the authenticity, the feeling of authenticity might come from. They were actually hanging out in Lower East Side, New York.
They were in the mix. Well, the Beastie Boys are blowing up at this time. They're going on the talk shows. One of my favorites is when they go on the Joan Rivers talk show and she messes up the title of their album. She says, their album's called License to Kill, and the audience corrects her. Let's just play a clip.
This album is called License to Kill, and it went platinum after only 8 weeks. License to Kill, right?
That's ill, Joan.
Well, I'm telling you, I got my stupid contacts in. Hold on. Okay, sorry about this. Their album is called License to Ill. That's a stupid name for an album.
And here's another clip of an early Beastie Boys performance of Fight for Your Right on American Bandstand, same year, 1987.
You gotta fight for your right to party.
And on the non-TV friendly of this, they've got like on stage, they're performing with the giant blow up like penis. They all look back on this time. All the Beastie Boys look back on this era and very apologetically about some of the misogyny, some of the silliness, some of the puerile humor. But they're also funny, and they're
having a blast.
They're touring with Run DMC.
They're having a blast. And by the way, I was talking to my friend Jason about this, but if you take them at their word, apparently to party is to look at porno mags and smoke cigarettes. Like, this is a great party.
Yeah.
This is a great party.
But it really, in that way, you watch them and you're like, oh, these are just friends having a blast. And they're on national television, kind of like not very, clearly not choreographed.
They're flopping around.
Flopping around, not taking it very seriously. And that must have, you know, as I was a little too young still at this point, but just catching on to be like, how refreshing to not feel like sort of super curated, organized, super cool music or presentation.
Look, there's Michael Jackson's performance at Motown 25, and then there's this.
That. Chaos.
Yeah.
And let's not forget that like there's big crunchy guitars in that too. So they were from day one mixing the hip hop beats. The 808s were already being mixed with the big power chords, right?
That's what's interesting about Fight for Your Right specifically is that in a weird way, Sabotage sounds more like that group.
Right.
Than some of the Beastie Boys songs that came in between
or
that
No
song
Sleep
and
Till
Sabotage.
Brooklyn. Like in their first record, they're playing with all that rock and hip hop mixing. Yeah. Well, we can't talk about irony in music and not talk about Beastie Boy videos. From Fight to Your Right to Party into the Paul's Boutique era of Hey Ladies and Shake Your Rump, they have an insane run on some of these sort of thin line between comedy, not comedy videos, right? But few come close to the video for our song today, Sabotage, directed by Spike Jonze. This 70s exploitation video follows the band as undercover cops running around the streets of LA. Let's play a snippet. Video perfection.
Man, I wish everybody listening could be in the studio right now because you would see three very excitable men right now. We're freaking loving it.
Hearing the full song through, it rips so hard from start to finish.
It's not a long song, by the way.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It's pretty short.
So the video comes out for this song, and again, I don't think I even had MTV. We didn't have cable at that point, but you'd go to your friend's house. You'd always go to your friend's house or cable to watch MTV, and that video came on. It was just like electrically so funny, and watching it again, you're like, oh. They are stealing shots all over LA. Like this looks like a very unpermitted video.
Set,
They're just like, put on the wig, slap it, let's go to the 6th Street Bridge. And again, it just feels
run
like
down the stairs.
Yeah. Run down the stairs, stop and look at the camera. Well, and it just feels like still like friends having a good fucking time. That like super low budget, super easy, super mobile. Let's just like run around and grab shit and move on and go to another spot and grab more shit and we'll cut it together and see what we got. It actually feels very much similar to like where the evolution of where that Cookie Puss thing was, which is like, let's just prank call some stuff and then we'll cut it together and see what we got. I mean, this is also in the hands of Spike Jonze, who's like one of the, I mean, that's a whole other level that
Dude,
they find each other.
If I can just jump in there, I mean, like, I feel like Silicon Valley ruined art because how great were music videos? It was basically the opportunity for like visionaries to direct a 3-minute short film with an amazing soundtrack, and you might come up with the kind of visuals that made, you know, another part of the entertainment business say, hey, here's more money, let's see what else you can do. So it makes me truly miss music videos and the place they used to hold in society.
And him, you know, so Spike, you know, like, obviously gets to know them at some point and was making skateboarding videos and bike video and like starts to build all this stuff. I don't know exactly when they meet, but they make this video and I was like, holy shit. And then by this point I'm in high school. I at some point, I don't know when exactly when does this come out?
94.
Okay. So 94. This comes out. I'm in high school. And then my senior year, a new kid comes to our school. This kid named Sam, who's super cool. and at some point in the year, a couple of my friends become friendly with him. And they're like, that dude knows the Beastie Boys. And my buddy Sam, whose brother is Spike Jonze. So I was like, all of a sudden, again, growing up around a lot of like doctors and lawyers, there wasn't much connection to like, this
artists,
kid's brother made fucking made Sabotage, you know? And it was just like, it started to make it be like, oh, this is possible. Like you could go and be the people who like make that stuff.
This is Sam Spiegel?
Yeah,
who
Sam
went
Spiegel.
on to be, is it NASA?
NASA's DJ Squeaky Clean, who's made and produced music for tons of artists. Yeahs. He's worked with
that's amazing.
So many
He's
people.
Your buddy. That's cool.
He's an old friend. We met in high school. And so I didn't meet Spike for many, many years, but it was sort of like, oh my God, this is possible. And that video specifically, Sabotage, for me, as someone who like really grew up like loving music, but really loving comedy, seeing this video was like, holy shit, like you can make a sketch. You can make music be a sketch and be as funny as any sketch you'll ever see.
Can't agree more.
And Master also was like, early for me in like what I think, or this early 90s period where it's like all of a sudden being like, oh, the 70s are funny.
Because that had only just happened.
It's just retro. It's like the first time since the 70s that the 70s are cool.
Yes.
The 80s were decidedly like disco sucks.
Yes.
Bell bottoms are lame.
No, and the Beastie Boys are a perfect example of that because they did Paul's Boutique in 89.
Yes.
And they talk about how they were a little too early by bringing back, they did all those great videos with polyester and everything, and it didn't quite hit. People weren't ready for it in 89 yet, but in 94.
Because like literally, I think back to my brother and you in college, and my brother teaching me, and then started teaching me about fashion of being like, no, it's cool to like go to Clothes by the Pound and buy the like butterfly collar shirts and like,
yes,
and,
we were definitely doing that.
And it was like, and I was like, oh, that's what's cool. And then this video comes out and you're like, oh, they've done it. They've merged like that funny retro 70s thing inside of the genre of like 70s cop TV. Spike nails it, but also it's still silly. They're not taking it so serious. Like the wigs are kind of shitty. The mustaches are kind of
right.
shitty.
It's intentionally DIY.
It's intentionally silly, a little
yeah.
DIY and shitty, and yet simultaneously mastering.
It's super cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I will
They're
say
getting the shots that are accurately from those intros, like the pointing at the head and then freeze framing. Like you're not smart. Like I can totally picture that from Hawaii 5-0 or something like that.
I just want to say real quick that like you know, as somebody who has made his career in comedy, this music video, it made sketch comedy look like art.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it just made it seem like, oh, this is the new punk right here. Like we're the guys who throw on wigs that are not perfect, the aviator sunglasses, the stupid ties, and we're going to run around and we're going to be like the new punk aesthetic. And I also, this video, so many things going on. You know, I read a quote somewhere. It was like, there would be no Wes Anderson or maybe P.T. Anderson without the Sabotage video.
Mm-hmm.
Like so much of like what we associate with like sort of like late 90s indie aesthetic is established here. And also, can I just say on a personal level, makes me miss the old downtown L.A. Because that L.A. that's in that video, like the old 6th Street, you know, bridge and all that stuff is gone. But it's such a great video. It's so perfect. Well, listen, so much to unpack here. We're going to take a quick break, but When we get back, we're going to break down Sabotage and discuss whether it's a rock song or a hip-hop song at its core when we get back. This episode is brought to you today by BetterHelp.
Because I'm not going to lie, therapy, mental health, it is part of my life. It is my daily, weekly, Thursday, 9 o'clock thing that I do.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer. It's changed my life. It's changed my world. So I'm a big fan of this service. I'm a big fan of therapy. Mental health awareness is growing, but there's still progress to be made, including within myself. See, that's the thing. It's an ongoing concern. Yeah. 26% of Americans who participated in a recent survey say they have avoided seeking mental health support due to fear of judgment.
When people hesitate to get help, it doesn't just affect them. It impacts families, workplaces, and entire communities.
We are all better with help.
Visit betterhelp.com/onesong to get 10% off your first month.
That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/onesong.
Welcome back to One Song Luxury. Before we jump into the stems, let's talk about how this song was made and how the Beastie Boys internally handled the publishing split.
This is a 33-33-33 song between Mike D, also known as Michael Lewis Diamond, Adam Nathaniel Yauch, or Yauk, which is how he said it, and as MCA, and Adam Keefe Horowitz, Ad Rock.
Can I just say real quick, I have always had trouble knowing who's who in this group.
Yeah, me too.
Like,
I
By
hate
their
to say
voices or by their faces?
all of it.
So Mike
All
D,
of
he's
it,
the
I
high
would-
voice,
yeah,
right?
But no.
No.
I always thought it was Mike D was the
Yeah.
high voice, and it's
It's
not.
Ad Rock.
It's Ad Rock.
Ad Rock's the highest, MCA is the lowest. It's kind of
And
the
I'm
growl.
MCA. See, I'm
Mike
saying,
D-
and I'm MCA. That's not right. I did the Ad Rock.
Yeah, Ad
That's
Rock.
him. He's
Ad
the high
Rock. He's got
voice.
kind of the nasal thing.
Yeah.
Mike D is kind of in the middle, but he's closer to the higher one.
Yeah.
But the nasal stuff, that's Ad Rock.
Yeah. Isn't it weird? I, for years, thought it was Mike D. I don't know why, but in my head
He
it was.
seemed like the highest voice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of the reason Mike D looks different, Ad Rock and MCA look kind of similar. And they all often had hats on, so they're like the faces. So Mike D's like the most specific looking of the three.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, is the high voice one the guy who I always know who it is? I know it sounds crazy because I'm like,
No,
but also
I
because they're
agree.
always like in mustaches and wigs and stuff like, so I think they were playing with different identities and also, anyway.
But I agree.
They might be like, we were actually three very distinct human beings.
We don't
With
appreciate
distinct points of view,
you mixing us up
skill
like that.
sets, and music. So it hurts a little bit that you would confuse us on this way. But I really, as a genuine, massive fans of them, it was hard to know who was who.
Now that we talked about the splits, how did this song get made?
All right. Well, the song begins life in New York City. As we've set up, this is a song where the Beastie Boys are all playing instruments. In fact, there are no samples on this song, or are there? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. There might be a sample on this one.
Shit.
We might need your help identifying it, in fact. But in Tin Pan Alley, which was the name of the studio, not the place, but actual Tin Pan Alley Studios, they get together, they jam. This record is made by Mike D getting on the drums, Ad Rock getting on guitar, and MCA getting on bass, with Money Mark sometimes on keyboards, and just jamming it out. And they come up with lots of ideas are generated. Some of them turn into songs more quickly than others. This one takes a long time. In fact, it is the last one to be finished because they just couldn't figure out what to do with this instrumental. But one thing that they knew was special about the song is when they played it, there was this guy called Chris something. They don't remember his name. They all tell this story. As Ad Rock says, he was, quote, indifferent about the music we were making. He was just at his job. But when they played this, he went nuts for the track. He's like, yo, that is the song. So for the longest time, this instrumental was called Chris Rock, just because this guy Chris
It had nothing to do with the comedian. It was just
was
Chris
not-
liked a rock song.
Oh,
just
it was not Chris Rock.
some dude called Chris.
Because I was like, what was Chris Rock doing at the recording? He's like,
This
not that good.
this nameless engineer.
This song is great. I really like the song.
Yeah.
Which also brings us to our unsung hero of the episode.
Beastie Boys fans know the name if they don't know the guy. This is Mario C, who can't front on that.
I never knew what he said there. Wow.
Let's just hear the big intro. You can't front on that. That's that dude. His name is Mario Caldato Jr. A little bit about him, because he's our unsung hero of this episode. He started well, he started back in Brazil and came to America, but we're fast forwarding to his career with the Beastie Boys. Begins with Delicious Vinyl. He's an engineer. He works with Matt Dyke and Michael Ross. They make those Tone Loc and Young MC records. And then he works with the Dust Brothers on Paul's Boutique, and he's off to the races working with the Beastie Boys for that record and the next 3, including this one, which he engineered and co-produced, Paul's Boutique, Check Your Head, Ill Communication, all the way to Hello Nasty. They've recorded all this music in New York, and they moved to LA to G-Sun Studios, which is over there on Glendale Boulevard, actually.
Oh, wow.
And
sort of near where they shot a lot of the video.
Exactly. I noticed that, the top of the bridge over Glendale Boulevard. Yeah,
totally.
It's right on their way to work. In 1990, they bought this recording studio and rehearsal space. Money Mark, who also plays into this song, remodels it. He's like a carpenter as well as being a keyboard player. And that's where they record Check Your Head, Ill Communication, and it's where they bring the tapes of all their jams from New York to try and finish what would become Ill Communication.
So Money Mark is like their Billy Preston in this case?
A little bit.
A little
comes
bit.
in to play the keys and bring a little extra heat to
That's
it.
a great, and I would agree with that. Yes, absolutely.
But you know what else I'm also realizing is that you just brought up that part of town. That part of town is buzzing in the mid-90s because that's where Beck is recording his
I think
albums
you're right
at
about
this
Far
time.
Side is also done in that area.
Everybody's in that weird sort of like
Atwater.
Silver Lake,
It's
Atwater
Atwater,
Village scene at the time.
Yeah, and
all-
just like all these Armenians so deeply confused about what's happening.
to their community. Yeah. So Mario Caldato, Mario C, helps them finish the record. So they have all these ideas. MCA was calling it like a live mixtape because they would just have dozens and dozens of things they would piece together. What if we put this intro with this chorus, with these lyrics? And Mario C is the one with charts and graphs on the board, like crazy Charlie Kelly style, and helping them decide how to finish this record, which left to their own devices might have taken more time, more months. And 2 weeks before the album is finished, this track has no lyrics. They were considering putting it out as an instrumental. And Horowitz has an idea. Quote, there was one track left, Chris Rock, as we've all known that it was called. It had to be dealt with. I decided it would be funny to write a song about how Mario is holding us all down, how he was trying to mess it all up, sabotaging our great works of art. So he goes to Mario's house, he records his vocal.
Holy smokes.
And that's how they complete the song.
That puts the lyrics in such a different place.
I know. And then as I hear it, I'm like, how funny. But it's also like so funny to be like, clearly the guy keeping it all together and helping them form it.
Right.
They making it like a fantastical enemy of him. They just needed a point of
bullying him.
view. And it is funny to be like, oh, the guy's clearly helping us shape this. Like, oh, it'd be funny if we were fucking mad at him.
I can't stand it. I know
Yeah,
you planned it.
yeah.
You know, like it takes
Yeah.
on a different meaning.
That's so funny.
It is really funny with that line.
Well, why don't we start with the drum stems? We've already talked about how important the drums are on this song.
Let's start with Michael Diamond doing his double hits, as he calls them, at the top. And then I'll start to bring in some other stuff. Here we go. And then he plays this beat.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a little syncopation there.
Yeah.
Little stutter step.
Yeah.
A lot of syncopation.
He's really doing a lot of like
Yeah.
tricky,
Yeah.
tricky syncopation in there.
It's not a loop.
No.
The snare's not always what
Yeah.
you think it's going to be. In the grand tradition of Beastie, it's like there's some big rock drums, basically. Big reverby snare hits. It's big, it's rock. And it just reminds me that sometimes we forget this isn't a hip hop song, but a lot of hip hop has big rock drums in it. The Zeppelin break from When the Levee Breaks, that opening drum hit, is in a lot of hip hop, right? We have Mountain. We have drum breaks from
We have Billy
Little
Squires,
Feats.
the
Billy
big beat.
Squires, the big beat, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to kind of connect the dots here.
But then, as you said, there's that like weird like syncopation
That
that
little
feels
stutter.
to me like
Yeah.
much more like when I think of like 70s funk.
I was gonna say, that's the James
stuff.
Brown.
Yeah,
Absolutely
that's what
right.
that's what it feels like.
100% agree. Well, let's move on to the bass. And there's a quick story about that. In fact, the song begins with that, as Mike D says. One day, Yauk starts playing this incredible bass line on his vintage Fender Jazz. I immediately asked him, what song is that from? Because it sounded so good, he assumed it was from another song. I assumed it must be somebody else's. Turned out it wasn't. He had just come up with it. So he sat down, played that da-da, dum-dum, and they kept on going from there. So let's listen to what Mike D would have heard and been inspired by on that magical day in 1994. banging some drums. And he's just doing that the whole time.
Yeah. But it sounds like a classic.
It sounds like a classic. It's a huge wall of distortion on a bass. He's playing two notes. He's playing the seventh and the root, and he's just kind of like giving it a little syncopation when he throws in that dun 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 dun, a little clave, almost like a 3/2 clave. And that's the entire song is the one note. This is a one note song. This song is A flat.
Wow.
The entirety of the song is A flat.
What's crazy is if you hadn't told me that was the bass, I wouldn't assume that was the bass. I would assume that's like a guitar.
Because it's so much distortion on it, right? And playing more than one note, playing a chord.
It also hits my ears like higher than I expect a bass to hit.
Because the frequencies, the distortion is a pedal you would put on a guitar pedal for rock and roll, and it adds a lot of high-end frequencies and layers of
And they put it on a bass
instead.
And you think Chris Rock's note on this would have been like,
I put more distortion on the bass.
yeah, or just like, kind of feels like one note.
To be clear, it's Chris Rock.
Yes.
Not Chris Rock.
A guy called Chris.
A guy called Chris like
song.
that.
I'm not doing an impression of Chris Rock, the comedian.
I don't know why anybody thought
I'm
that.
doing what I believe
It was obvious
Chris
to me.
Rock.
The actual guy named Chris.
Yeah.
So he's mostly doing that throughout the entirety of this 2-minute, 50-something second song.
Boy, it works.
There's a couple of squeals he does a little bit later. I called it squeal fill. Here's the squeal fill when we come back from the solo. And by the way, I think what that is, just to jump ahead for a second, there's that crazy solo. Let's just jump ahead to, here's what Ad Rock is playing for the guitar solo. I can just tell you they were rolling on the floor laughing at this sort of like, sarcastic Ted Nugent. What would some 70s stadium rocker do?
Funny.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like a squealing note.
But what's weird is that squill feel, which is hard to say.
Yeah, you did it though.
That actually sounded more like Hendrix to me.
Hendrix.
Can you play the squill feel again?
Well, it's probably like Ted Nugent heard Hendrix and then was like, I think I can steal that.
And then Ad Rock is like, I'm not a very good guitar player, so I'm going to sort of make fun of myself trying to be Ted Nugent, trying to be Hendrix.
Yes,
Hendrix.
And then there's one other variation, which you may or may not have noticed, in the sort of whispering, listen all y'all, it's a sabotage part. And I'll give you some context in a second, but MCA is playing this sort of pretty little descending arpeggio thing here, which again, you may have thought was a guitar, but it's MCA. In the context.
Listen all of y'all, it's a sabotage. Listen all of y'all, it's
Wow.
What's crazy is that could have been its own like remix. Like that's such a much more 90s hip hop kind of like sound to sample.
But it also sounds like it almost sounds like Blind Melon.
Yeah.
Like some weird, you know what I mean? It's sort of like, it sounds so gentle.
It's
earnest
and pretty.
So when I was in college, I went to Georgetown. I started doing comedy in college. I got cast in a sketch show my freshman year that Mike Birbiglia had organized, very funny man, and a bunch of other friends. I then joined the improv group there. And one thing we did at Georgetown every year, we would all do comedy, but then there was also like a night called Cabaret where they would have a live band and all the people who like sang or wanted to sing in college.
I remember this.
Yeah.
I was at Georgetown too.
Yeah. So would do like different songs. So we were not there to sing. We were there to host. We were the comedy portion of it, but we would open this every year with a different song. And one year it was me, Mike Birbiglia, and Ed Harrow sang. We opened the show with Sabotage. As very much like not singers. This is a song, if you're not a singer, you can sing.
Was it a parody with new lyrics or just like straight up
it was
the song?
a straight.
Okay.
And there's
Cabaret cover.
Yeah. The reason I bring it up is because that like where the bass comes in and sort of resets and changes its time. It was like, okay, now we're about to start singing. As non-musicians, it's hard for non-musicians to know when exactly they're supposed to enter a song. It's the most, as me, someone who has to sing a lot, but is not comfortable and doesn't really understand music. I need those cues that it's like, here, I'm about to come in. And it's that moment that you just played off that stem that you're like, okay, now we're about to start singing. So I have a very weird sense memory of that particular moment.
But that makes total sense because that's its function in the song is to be like get ready, here
Yes,
it comes.
yes.
Because every time he plays that, it's about to hit hard
Exactly.
a moment later.
Yes, exactly.
Listen, this is a song with very few notes. Like I pointed out that it's one note on the bass. On
Thank
the guitar, there are even fewer notes.
Yeah.
So here is Ad Rock, Adam Horovitz on guitar. He will also be screaming in a minute, but first he's doing this. And I'll just pause right there because that's mostly what he's doing with some occasional changes. Like over here, that's at the beginning. We get about 40 seconds of that, and then he kind of varies it slightly. Again, just A flat, just a power chord, and some harmonics, and just crunching through the entire thing. And it's very punk rock.
Yeah.
We've got some drums, we've got some bass and guitar. What are the keys doing in this song?
Okay, another unsung hero of this episode. We've already given him a shout out. That is Money Mark Nishida on keyboards and sometimes construction. He, quote, according to Mario Caldato, the producer, jumped on the organ after he heard the drums and bass thing going on. He hit one chord, started turning the organ all the way up, causing the Leslie, which is the speaker that rotates, to distort. You're going to hear basically just a drone throughout the song with some little sounds and squiggles here and there. But here it is, Money Mark playing another A flat.
Yeah.
Little sounds here. Little clavinet-y kind of thing there. Might be a clavinet, I'm not sure, but
It sounds like our Stevie.
it's got
Wonder.
some like wah on it or some effects. Very Stevie, very 70s.
Yeah.
And that's running through the entire song. And it's a fun thing on our show where we have groupings of shows, right? Where we just did Roy Ayers, Everybody Loves the Sunshine, also has a drone. And before that, we did Sonic Youth, cool thing, also has a drone. So another strange connection happening with our song choices. Being
Is
a
this
family.
what's when it all drops out? This is the
Exactly right.
I was going to
exactly
say,
right.
this is like that real cool connective tissue part where like everything's gone and then they're just, in the video, I remember them like walking.
Yeah.
It's like a Reservoir Dogs.
They're eating their donut. Exactly. I'll play that
Or
for
the
you.
donut, yeah. It's so interesting. The only thing that really makes Cookie Puss sound like it's hip hop is the scratching, really, if you break it all down. And I know that they're scratching in this song, so it's almost like they've gone full circle. What is the scratching doing in this song?
Well, it's interesting because at the time, DJ Hurricane was their DJ, but he's not, apparently, according to Mario C., he's not scratching on this track. What you're about to hear was some combination of MCA and Ad Rock. And let's listen to what they cut in, and then I'll show you contextually how it starts to bring in a hip-hop element to what would have otherwise, been a Ted Nugent track, potentially. And then when you add big rock drums and big bass, but those are hip-hop scratches. Those are hip-hop
I will say,
cuts.
Fight me. That might be my favorite part.
Is that
of the
your
whole
favorite
song.
part?
Yeah,
the
because there's
scratching?
something so hard about that. So hard. What's he scratching on?
Yeah, well, you know what? I tried to find that. I was not able to locate what the actual sample is, but I was able to find what DJ Hurricane did live when he scratches this song. He talks about how he uses the following. This is from the 2001 soundtrack.
Oh my gosh.
And it's the Requiem for Soprano, Mezzo Soprano, and Choirs by Gheorghi Ligeti. And
Shout out to Gheorghi.
He's a listener.
Yeah.
And somewhere in the track, it's not clear exactly where, but he's using this piece of vinyl to just a little sound, just a little fragment of sound, which then becomes a rhythmic loop, basically, but done live. And it's somewhere from this piece. It may not be literally what I'm about to play for you, but here's what the piece sounds like. It's this like weird choir of voices.
Drone.
It's a drone of vocals. It could be from a little later when it does that. Could be from that. But anyway, that's DJ Hurricane. That's what he brought to play the song live. He cut from that.
Most sampled track of all time.
It's how he bought his house.
Right. Yeah. Gheorghi? That's how Gheorghi.
His
They
mansion.
finally got paid for it. Good.
Yeah.
So there is one mysterious sample I found when I went in there. And now when you listen to the song, it's obvious. They're not trying to hide it. In interviews, they mention they scratch this in. But I do not know what this is. Towards the end of the song, you hear this moment. And I can't isolate it any more than that.
Wow.
But appears to be
That's totally in there.
all bets are now against the wall. I'll play it one more time. One Song Nation, if you know what this comes from, let us know in the comments. Now, it's very poorly sung, so it could be the Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I also heard kind of a little bit of a like drum beat in there, like a drum machine. So
For whatever reason, I heard like when Captain America throws his mighty shield, like when Captain America throws his mighty shield.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's not it, but it has a weird cadence like that.
it's a better guess than I have.
Internet, do your thing.
In the comments, will be like, y'all stupid. It's obviously. Y'all like to start everything with y'all stupid.
Afro Lafayette Band.
All right, it wouldn't be a Beastie Boys episode if we didn't hear some isolated vocals. What do you want to play for us?
So here we go. We got Ad Rock. This is a song where I don't think all three Beastie Boys are on the song. They might all be shouting. We'll listen together and decide. But it's Ad Rock all the way through. And he starts the song with this.
I can't stand it. I know you're playing it. I'ma send it straight this Watergate. I can't stand rocking when I'm in here. Cause your crystal ball ain't so crystal clear.
Do it again, Adam. That was, I don't know why you were half-assing it. No, that's amazing. And by the way, I love the fact that he does like the deep breathe-ins because like on a lot of hip hop, like they'll take those out. But I feel like it's their, you know,
he needed to. He was breathless from screaming. Yeah.
Oh, I know, right? But it's like their aesthetic that like, no, leave the breathing in there because it's going to feel more raw.
There's also a second Sabotage. I'll play that and then I'll merge it together.
Sabotage!
And then together we have more of a screamy, shouty.
Sabotage!
So that's the only doubled line. We need to hear the big scream.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Which I think is the word why, but let's listen together and decide that. Get ready. Brace yourself.
I'm holding on to my
Here we
seat.
go. So that's a couple
That's
of
definitely
the
all of them.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's got all of them.
Yeah.
Also, that truly reminds me of the Far Side. Like the Far Side would do things where they all jump in and like do something for way too long.
Yeah.
All right, well, Fight Me. This is my favorite part of the vocal. I don't think anyone's going to fight me because I think it's yours too. But when Ad Rock does his Ad Rock thing, let's listen.
I'm in this place because I feel disgrace because you're all in my face. But make no mistake, because you're all in my face.
Because you're all in my face. Yeah, when we were playing it back in the studio, I noticed that you and I both hit that part.
Yeah, that's the satisfying nasal Ad Rock we all love. That's the Cookie Puss.
Yeah.
Ad
By the
Rock.
way, can you keep playing it right past that point? Because I want to get to this Buddy Rich moment.
But make no mistake, since switch up my channel, I'm Buddy Rich when I blow up the handle.
All right, so for those who don't know, do you know the Buddy Rich that I'm
I'm
talking
more
about?
of a Paul Anka, the guys get shirts, than I am the Buddy Rich. So but go ahead. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Buddy
I don't know
Rich,
that.
I do.
Yeah, Buddy Rich goes off on his like band or
So famously, just to set the stage,
Buddy
there's this
Rich, great jazz drummer.
incredible
Yes.
jazz drummer, right? One of the greatest of all time.
Yes.
Famously has, before the era of viral videos, people would sort of share tapes and share funny things. And one of them, legendarily, from like the 70s and 80s, I think even, was 10 minutes of Buddy Rich berating his band. Like, they got on the bus after a gig and just like, you suck, you fuck, you blah, 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 blah.
I'm up there working
Let's hear
my
a little-
balls off.
Let's hear a little clip from that.
What kind of trumpet section do you call us tonight? And saxophones? You gotta fucking be kidding me! How dare you call yourselves professional? Assholes are playing like fucking children up there.
So I knew that one a little bit.
Yeah.
And the one I remember really loving in the early, remember of discovering is Paul Anka
Okay.
Yeah.
going like, the guys get shirts for some reason. I don't know what he's like. And he goes, I don't care if it's Jesus Christ up there. You listen, you follow me. Like, and it's just, it's similar berating. It's so funny.
Okay? The guys get shirts. Don't make a fucking maniac out of me. The guys get shirts. Do you understand? We're not going to be as strong as our
But
weakest link.
similar. So it's very funny that they pulled the Buddy
Yeah,
Rich.
that was a reference to this like famous like pre-viral moment. Viral clip.
Which again, when you think of it in relation to this song is about Mario C, like sabotaging them.
Exactly.
It's a perfect example of like a music discord, like a music.
No, I love it.
Right.
It's almost like, you know. if
Berating
they-
the people you need.
Yeah. It's almost like when we were here and we're like, we'll do it live. Like we do the Bill
Yeah.
O'Reilly. Like,
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
we'll do it live. All right. So we've heard the song. We've heard the stems. We've heard the samples we can't identify and all these major riffs. Is this a rap rock song or is it honestly just a rock song?
it's interesting. I would think of it as a rap rock song, but now in hearing it and breaking down specifically, the music feels pretty rock.
Yeah.
But what do I know?
No, we don't disagree. Like,
Yeah.
it's a rock song. Everything in there is rock stuff except the scratching and that one mysterious sample, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the Beastie Boys, so you go into it thinking, oh, it's going to be a Beastie Boys, so there must be some hip-hop angle. Not a lot of hip-hop in there.
I mean, there's not
none,
honestly,
but not a lot.
I'll say, in my opinion, it's a rock song.
Yeah, it's a rock song.
You know, for this to be our Beastie Boys episode, there's so many amazing, great rap songs. And we've played snippets of a few in here.
Yeah.
But this is not, he's not rapping.
Yeah.
And other than the scratching, you could argue there's almost nothing in there that's necessarily hip hop.
Not only that, but it should be said, and there's at least 2 rock songs that jump into my brain, especially when we break it down like this. Like that bass line, if it wasn't consciously influenced by Sweet Emotion by Aerosmith,
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that.
then there's some kind of, unintentional connection there. I think that maybe MCA might have been channeling in the moment, but they're very similar with the chord and the note and etc. And then the other one is I was listening back and I was like, oh, that drum hit. What's happening there reminds me a lot of what happens in Killing in the Name of by
Yes.
Rage Against the Machine that does
can
a very
totally hear
similar
that.
thing and would have been out around the same time.
Now you do what they told you. Now you do what they told you. Now you do
So
what
Rage Against the Machine, Killing in the Name of has a kind of similar moment and would have been out at the same time, would have been a huge song for them.
Nick, in general, would you consider Beastie Boys a band or a hip hop group?
I guess I would have said it. I think it really was like what stage I understood them to be. So like when I was younger, I think I would have thought, when I was a little kid, I don't know if I would have known the distinction between like hip hop and rap even at that point. But I was like, I would have thought of them as like a hip hop group. But then I think they become, they start as, it's so funny because I think of them as they start as like this punk band that then get into hip hop, but then you hear them getting the mastery of their instruments over the years, especially when you get to Paul's Boutique and into now Sabotage, which frankly, now that hearing it through the stems is like not a complicated or very hard song to play, but their musicianship grows so tremendously that you think of them more as a rock band.
Yeah.
The longer you go, but then again by the late 90s and stuff, and they get into more hip hop and electronic music, it feels like another
Totally. By Hello Nasty.
yeah, exactly. So you're like, I feel like it's a great evolution of a band and a group of musicians who were clearly just kept following their interest and following like inspiration to continue to evolve as a band and never stay put.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the legacy of Sabotage. What impact do we think that the Beastie Boys, and specifically on Sabotage, had on us? We'll start with you, Nick.
I think for me, why I wanted to talk to you guys about the song. One, it rips so hard. It's just such an intense, fun song it's gonna get you psyched up. Whatever you're doing, wherever you're going, this song is gonna get you hyped. Two, I think I have this personal connection because I sang it live. It was probably one of the first songs I ever performed live. So I have a really strong connection to it in that way. The Beasties also brought so much comedy to not only to their music, but in this case, this video to me really symbolized where you could take comedy visuals and incorporate them into a song. And that has, as someone who really grew up and loved comedy, the merger of comedy and music is so clear here that it was such an influential thing for me personally, both in the music, but also just the visuals of it in this video. So all those things, I think that's why it left such an impact.
I'm just thinking of your show, Kroll Show. When you think about it, it has all of these characters, and there's obviously 3 to 4 minute, I don't know how long the average segment was, but you're kind of doing this okay, let's have a short idea. And of course, over the course of an episode or the season, you might see those characters again.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of connecting some dots here. It's let's have these 3 minute ideas with characters and scenes and references.
We did have one song that was a true standalone that I then turned into a character, but we did a song called LA Deli. The idea was what if it's like Van Halen singing California Girls, like Van Halen singing about that, but it's it's more like Guns N' Roses or like he looked like Bret Michaels,
right?
But about all the different LA delis. So it was like Cantor's and Greenblatt's, and again we shot it as much as we could, like to look like one of those hair metal bands from the 80s, but just like a Jewish deli. So I took a lot of what became like what that Sabotage aesthetic was and tried to bring it into. Like, to me, so much of my comedy is, and I think for you as well, is genre driven. Like, can you properly evoke like a specific visual genre and then make it funny as well? But like play to the height of what that genre is.
Yes,
was important.
I think one major part of the legacy of this song is that you can't put the Beastie Boys in a corner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this song is clearly a rock song, but also on the same album, you've got Get It Together with Q-Tip, which is fantastic,
Absolutely.
straight up. Ma Bell, you got the Ill Communication, like, straight up
The eclecticism
hip-hop.
is a part of who they are.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Ill communication, Ma Bell, got the ill communication. Ma Bell, got the ill communication. Ma Bell, got the ill communication.
Honestly, Hello Nasty, you forget how, like, Intergalactic felt like it could have been a Daft Punk song. You know, they work with Spike Jones before he works with Daft Punk. He does Da Funk, where Daft Punk wear like the dog mask or whatever, and like that sort of sets them on their aesthetic path. So, you know, they're blazing all these trails, and even as late as like, you know, the 2000s when Linkin Park does like their, you know, album with Jay-Z, like they're setting such a high bar for if you're going to fuse things together and you're going to be like, you know, a fusion group, for the lack of a better term, you better do it at such a high bar.
With knowledge. They have knowledge and reverence for what they're fusing, which I think makes a big difference. And of course, the humor, as we've been discussing.
Absolutely.
They set such a high bar for rock, you know, fusing with all these different things. But at the end of the day, I do still think of them as hip hop. And they did open the door for all these other, let's be frank, white rappers that if you come across as authentic and not, you know, capitalizing on a genre. I'm talking about Mac Miller. I'm talking about Eminem. I'm talking about Paul Wall. Paul Wall of all the most like post-2000 rappers, I feel like he has a lifetime invitation to the barbecue. He just seems like that dude who's like, I am not capitalizing on it. I am actually in the hood with my grill
Yeah, with
in
his grill.
Texas doing my thing. You know what I mean? But what do you think? What do you think is the legacy that the Beastie Boys leave for the future of white rappers?
and let's be clear, the future for white rappers is bright. Finally, but yeah, no, I think it's like it's exactly what you said. It's a certain bar if you want to be, because I think the Beasties earn the respect of everyone they came across throughout the years. They, you know what I mean? Like, yes, they were a novelty in the 80s, but you couldn't deny how fucking catchy and great those songs were.
I agree.
Their musicianship, I'm sure the punk scene was like, well, they're not punk, but they can rip and they can hang out with us. They can do this too. And you move on throughout the years and it just becomes undeniable. So if you're Mac Miller and you're like a YouTube novelty white rapper, then you have to come and then continue to show up and get better and better. And you watch, to me, Mac Miller's music over the years, and you watch him get better and better. The musicianship to the point, obviously, like, but by the time he passed away, where some of those albums are like the, you know, Feminine Mystique, all those like those albums and the stuff with Anderson .Paak is like really high level. Incredible musicianship, incredible respect for the form.
Respect.
It's respect for the form
Yes.
and the desire to innovate and collaborate. And I think that comes through when you hear like SZA talking about like Mac Miller is one of the first people to welcome me in. Like and I think the Beasties similarly were like, we're gonna do this with great respect to whatever genre we're playing in. If we're gonna fuse it, we're gonna do it well. And we're gonna collaborate with the best people we can collaborate with. And even though we're funny, we're taking this so fucking seriously. And I think that comes through in the music. And Eminem, I think, fits similarly into that.
The
same
respect.
genre.
I think you sum it up perfectly. I think in the end, as irreverent as they were, they were never irreverent towards the hip hop.
Yeah.
They were irreverent with great reverence.
Right. As Ad Rock said in that quote, the 808s were always dead serious.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the Beastie Boys could have been a disaster. But it turns out they combined the best elements of all their genres and they elevated their work to the next level. Before we end the show, we want to play a game with you. It's called What's One Song? And here are the rules. We'll ask you a question, and you'll give us a song title or an artist as your answer. Please answer as quickly as possible. No explanation needed. Don't overthink it. Let's begin. All right. What's one song that you've been listening to lately?
I just listened to Tizeta over and over.
Is it Ethiopian jazz?
Yeah. I listen to a lot of this. And like Emma Hoy. I listen to a lot of Emma Hoy. She just passed away. This like Ethiopian nun who lived in Jerusalem for many, many years and played like this super beautiful, it's like good meditating music. And it's just like this weird fusion of classical trained jazz piano and this sort of really meditative way. pretty current and good for the TikTok generation. Anyway, I listen to a lot of stuff, but
We're in love with
Tizeta, like it was a big song for me and my wife. We listened to on our first date. And but I listen to a song and I love this. Listen to it if you have a chance. It's a beautiful song.
Thank you for turning us on to it. I can't wait to listen.
No, we
to
love
this.
that answer.
That's great. What is one song that you loved as a kid?
What's that Beatles song where it's like, woke up, get out of bed.
A Day in the Life. That's the Paul part.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that song was like, I owned that on cassette. And I remember it was the first album that I did listen to in my room alone. And that song I found I loved history. And so there's something about that song that I love.
What's one song that changed your life?
James Brown's Sex Machine. I went to this school when I was like a junior in high school. I went to this place called the Mountain School in Vermont, and it was a bunch of kids living on a farm. So it was like 45 kids living in the woods on a farm. We were responsible for all the chores of keeping a farm going and also our studies. There was nothing to do. There was nowhere to go. And so like Friday night, we would have like coffee house and it was like a talent show night. And again, I had gone to like a pretty normal, like private school in Westchester. It was not like a go be weird. And it was no like go be weird. And I was getting really into like James Brown and funk. And I did like a lip sync dance to like Sex Machine. And I have a very clear memory of being like, this is very silly, but I just want to go do this. And like, it was okay to be weird and like be made fun of, but I just was like, and I felt sexy doing it. So it was like a big, anyway, it really changed me like, no, it's okay to go take this risk, put yourself out there, possibly look silly, but also like, you love this song, you love James Brown, go do it. And it was a real change for me as far as like taking some risks and following what was interesting to me.
Did you get like the response?
It killed. It really like, the 45 other white kids loved it. It killed, and it was like it was really invigorating.
What's one song we have to break down on a future episode of One Song?
Oh, the one that I had wanted to do in here that I think you guys had already done a lot was Sly, Family Affair.
Yes,
that's a great one.
Just like because someone told me somebody was like, oh, the reason it has that sort of like.
Early drum machine.
Well, drum machine, but also it was like he just kept recording it over and over
by himself in his attic
like
or something.
Losing his mind, recording it over and over on the same track. So it sounds like really like muddy.
It's a strange composition. Like the balance of instruments is unusual, but it's incredibly good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Nick, thank you so much for playing and for spending time with us here on One Song today. Where can people find you on the internet? Do you have anything coming out you want to plug?
Oh, yeah. I have so many things I want to plug. So it's specifically why I'm here. And it's One Song Nation. I needed that One Song Nation audience here. But I have Big Mouth, the final season of Big Mouth coming out on Netflix May 23rd. The show that I produced and directed a bit of called Adults coming out on FX. May 28th, awesome. And then drops on Hulu for FX on May 29th.
Great.
And then I've got a movie coming out that I made with Andrew Rannells, like a Italian Vacation gone horribly wrong, on June 6th.
Awesome.
What is that called?
It's called I Don't Understand You. So it's 3 weeks in a row I have these things that have been collectively like 15 years or more of work.
Oh, they're all
So-
finally coming.
And they're all
back.
coming out
Yeah.
within a
over
month of each other.
3-week period. Yeah.
Well, we can't wait to see all of them. Our audience, I'm sure, will see all of them to support Nick Kroll, one of the greatest guests we've ever had on the show. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate
What
your
a pleasure.
time.
Thanks for having me.
That was super fun.
Thanks, guys.
As always, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok. You can find me on Instagram at Diallo, Diallo, and on TikTok at Diallo Riddle.
And you can find me on Instagram at LUXXURY and on TikTok at LuxuryXX.
And go follow One Song at One Song Podcast on Instagram and TikTok for exclusive content. You can also watch full episodes of One Song on YouTube and Spotify. Just search for One Song Podcast. We'd love it if you like and subscribe.
Also, be sure to check out the One Song Spotify playlist for all of the songs we discuss in our episodes. You can find the link in our episode description.
And if you made it this far, we think that means you like the podcast. So please don't forget to give us 5 stars, leave a review, and share us with someone you think would like it. It really helps keep the show going. All right, Luxury, help us end this thing.
I'm producer, DJ, songwriter, and musicologist Luxury.
And I'm actor, writer, director, and sometimes DJ Diallo Riddle.
And this is One Song. We'll see you next time.
This episode was produced by Melissa Dueñez. Our video editor is Casey Simonson. Our associate producer is Jeremy Bimbo. Mixing by Michael Hardman. And engineering by Eric Hicks. Production supervision by Razak Boykin. Additional production support from Z Taylor. The show is executive produced by Kevin Hart, Mike Stein, Brian Smiley, Eric Eddings, Eric Weil, and Leslie Guam.